Hey friends, thanks for clicking on this video and joining in on this comparative test. I'll probably be doing quite a bit throughout the summer just simply because I've got a lot of black powder left over and I just kind of want to see where everything falls when you're shooting it out of a black powder revolver. Now this is my 1860 Army Pietta Old Silver. I've done a couple of videos already on this, things that I've had to do to, improve it, because when I got it, it was really rough, it chattered, all of that. It's already been sighted in. I replaced the front sight, but you can go back on this channel and you can find those videos and you can see what all I've done. In this test here, this is going to be the beginning of it. I'm going to compare 3F Swiss and my Mesquite Mullen. Okay. Now, just so that we all can understand what I'm doing in these tests, my powder measurer for the Swiss is 30 grains. Okay. A static charge or a thrown charge, this actually weighs, even though it's 30 grains by volume, with Swiss it actually weighs 33 grains. And this is why I've mentioned before in the past, if you're going to be comparing your homemade black powder to a factory, you need to know what the static weight is. And the reason for that is, with this same powder measurer, with the Mullen Mesquite blend, static charge weighs 27.6 grains. So obviously you're shooting about 6 grains less per volume. So I think this is a lot of reasons why guys say, oh, my homemade black powder is weak compared to. Well, that's the reason why. Because your homemade black powder doesn't have, in Swiss's case, that heavy graphite glazing. That does add weight to the gunpowder, okay? So when I take this same powder measure and settle it with my Mullen Mesquite, it actually weighs 31 grains. So that's getting pretty close right there. But so that we can have an equal weight charge comparison, I've weighed out 30 grains of my homemade black powder Mullen Mesquite, and she occupies right there on this measure. And it's about 31, 32 grains volume-wise. Okay. Now, I have a spare cylinder. So I will load one cylinder up with Swiss, and then I'll swap out the cylinders and shoot my homemade black powder, and then we can do that comparison. And the reason why I'm doing that is because I don't want to have any dirty cylinder to be shooting through. I've got 2 clean cylinders, so to me that compares them a little bit better, instead of me just shooting one, turning around and loading it up and putting a charge and pushing some of that fouling back down into the cylinder. When I get done shooting the first cylinder, which I'm going to do Swiss first because I want to start with Swiss and see what we got. When I get done shooting that, I will swab out the barrel and I will re-lube the barrel. Okay, right now it's pushing 10 o'clock. There's just a little bit of a breeze. Nothing's loaded up, so I think by the time I get loaded up and ready to go, I think it'll be perfect for shooting. Stay tuned. So just for the technocrats out there, that's the depth they're all seated at. Again, 30 grains. This is be the Swiss cylinder. Number 10 CCI caps and a Spear 454 swaged round ball. Okay, you can look at that. I think I'm gonna give this one here just a little bit more of a pressure on it because I can see it's not as deep, so I will correct that. Let me show you the other cylinder. I think you can see those are pretty much all at the same depth. And these are Remington number 11s, okay? And looking at it once again, yeah. And it's the same round ball, Spear 454. All right, let's do some shooting and see what numbers we can accumulate. I do have targets set up, and I am also using a pre-lubricated felt wad. 786. 747. 733. Interesting how they're going down. 786. 783. 738. Well, there's the target. There's the group. Obviously, it's shooting low, but it looks like I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 that are grouped together, and who knows where the 6th one went, but I'm sure it's somewhere in that cluster. But I think you can see that there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 just right together. But make of it what you will. So 6 shots. That's the inside of the barrel with Swiss. Hopefully you can see that, and I'm holding it just right. And of course, the breeze is picking up. $8.84. $8.41. $7.62. $7.84. $7.68. I think I'm going to have to still work with this front sight. Still shooting low and in about the same place as it did with the Swiss. So there's the inside of the barrel. I'd say it's just a smidgen cleaner, but again, I think that's because there's no graphite left behind. And I don't know if you guys can see it, but there's a funky color just right at the forcing cone. It's more of a like a rust color. I don't know how well the camera can pick it up, but that's the inside of the barrel. Mesquite, Mullen. And if you look at the front of the barrel, you can see that there's a grease ring right at the crown. So even though I squeeze the oil out of the felt wads to properly lubricate them, you can see that there's still enough lubrication left in those felt wads. All right, let's go crunch some numbers. Okay, so what did we glean from this? Swiss had a 6-shot average of 762 with a spread of 53. Okay, and once again, here's the target. Okay, and these were all shot with a felt wad, and I did manage to recover 3. I dug into the pile for a while afterwards to see if I can find any of the wads that made it through to the target and into the dirt embankment, and I didn't find any there. Okay, so what about the Mullen? 6-shot average, 815. Now, before I give you the spread, you have to bear in mind, okay, this might just well be where a true 3F homemade black powder would make a difference. Because what I'll do is I'll go ahead and turn the camera around here in just a little bit, and I'll show you the difference between the Swiss and my gunpowder. And that might make a difference, because I ended up with a spread of 122, which I'm not impressed with. And here's the Mullen target, and I can tell you everything else ended up in the same vicinity, but just a little bit lower. Now I know I made a comment, I might have to work with the front sight a little bit, but then I get to thinking about it afterwards. I may not, because when I sighted that gun in, I shot it off a pillow, not a solid rest. That may or may not make a difference, but you know, time will only tell, because maybe the next time I get out and do another comparative, get some more numbers, I might just shoot off of this and just see whether I really got to work on that front sight a little bit more or not. Because I haven't shot any of my black powder handguns for quite some time right now, because I've only been interested in making the homemade black powder and shooting it out of my flintlock. This is really, you know, the first time that I've really sat down and cared about gathering numbers for my homemade black powder. But let me get the camera turned around. I'll show you the wads I found, and also the difference in the gunpowder and where it might make a difference, not so much in the power, but in the spreads. So obviously I can't tell you which one sat upon the powder charger Swiss versus my homemade black powder, but that would be the side that sat on top of the powder charge. Let me flip them over. Or better yet, let's see. You can kind of look at the side of that. That might have been one of the wads going down a clean barrel. Standing that one up, you can certainly see at the edge went down a barrel that had some black powder residue inside the barrel. It's a clear difference there. And there's the third one. So I would surmise that this one right here, because the edges are not dirty, let's see if I get that stood up, I would surmise that was one that went down a clean barrel. But either way, they didn't make it to the target. And looking at especially the one with the Swiss, I get a pretty good group. And like I said, with the Mullen, everything was just below the paper. Now here's the powder. This is the Swiss right here, and you can see how fine everything is. In fact, I would almost dare say that's more of a line of a 4F instead of a 3F. And then there's the grain size of the powder that I shot, my homemade powder. So there's that. So as not to put too fine of a point on this, the homemade black powder I feel did a whole lot better than the Swiss, just simply because looking at the difference between the first shots going down a clean barrel was 118 feet a second different. The overall difference, taking into consideration the 6-shot numbers, there's only 53 feet per second different. But either way, my numbers with this homemade black powder outperform Swiss, and looking down the barrel, you guys can make that judgment call yourself. Looking down that barrel, I would say they were just about as equally dirty or clean, however you want to view it, just simply because I'm taking into consideration the chunks of the graphite left behind. I don't have that in my gunpowder, obviously, so I'm trying to mentally compensate for that, whereas I know a lot of guys probably wouldn't. But either way, I want to thank everybody for watching. I think I'm going to pretty much wrap this up, because as you know, I got a gun to go clean and a spare cylinder. So if you've gleaned anything from this, I hope you'll give it a thumbs up and share it with your bestest of buds. And we'll catch you sometime in the future. Bye.